All right. What's up, guys? It's Tara Devlin. Yay! We meet here every Thursday and Tuesdays and Fridays. And yeah, we got a lot of work to do. This is Tarabuster Thursdays. And okay, let's get into it. Thank you, Jim, for being a moderator at YouTube, at the YouTube channel on the Political Voices YouTube. How's it looking? How's it sounding? We have a lot to talk about. Nice to see you, Jim. Nice to see you, Charlie from APS Radio News. Thank you for all you do to keep the show going and growing, and all of the emotional encouragement you give to me. It's not easy sometimes. All right, and check out APS Radio and APS Radio News, classic rock and oldies all day. And also some other independent liberal media voices like Cindy Sheehan has a show on APS Radio News. All right. And thank you for your support of the community cats. Let's get into it. And I'm talking about Charlie. He supports the community cats all year round, just like he supports this show. Okay. Thank you, everybody. Let's see. Where do I begin? Yeah, okay. Everybody's talking about Kristi Noem's husband, Brian, who has a fetish, and I don't give a shit about anyone, having a fetish. Go for it. Do your thing. Get your kink on, consenting adults and all that. But it's the hypocrisy that irritates me, and this is what we are dealing with Republicans. Hypocrisy is the wind beneath their wings. And I've been saying it for years that if only they would get help for their manias. I'm not saying that Brian Noem should get help for being, what is it called? Bimbofication? That's what he's into, bimbofication. He might want to get some therapy. I do think it probably is linked to, I don't know, I'm not in his head, but I think there's a lot of gender dysphoria going on in Republicans. Everything is a front. It's all a grift. They all have to act. They have to be things that they're not. They've been taught from the times that they were little that they're not accepted, that they will be ostracized, that there's that, you know what I mean? Like it takes courage to live an authentic life. So what they have been taught in their schools, well, not just in their schools, but in their churches, I should say, is that there is conditional love, right? God may love you unconditionally, or so they say, even though their God is a incredibly vindictive, it's just a giant version of themselves. Petty, ugly, divisive, hateful, juvenile, doesn't give a shit about, about being decent or good or inclusive. And so I wonder about Brian Noem, because how do you develop the fetishes? You can, anyone, not that I listen to a lot of psychological podcasts and true crime podcasts, not that this is a crime. And I listen to, it all goes back to your childhood. So something happened to Brian Noem when he was a child that makes him want to put on big, giant boobies and take pictures of himself and send them for a fee to virtual strangers, knowing that he has a lot on the line. So that goes to show you that it's something he can't help. And it makes me kind of feel sad for him, because I think it might stem from a gender dysphoria that he has. And but I don't feel sad that, because he has a choice. Because other people who are gay and trans, who are living authentic lives, they're the ones out here in the line of fire taking Republican hate in spite of all of the, because right now, all over the country, there are over 700 bills targeting trans people. And that makes it difficult for people to live free and open and authentic lives. But yet, I don't know about you, I know many trans people who are doing it anyway. And there's nothing more courageous than that. Republicans, but they create this world of division and hate and exclusion, and it really is all connected to their faux religiosity. Where is this? Hold on a second. I'm trying to find it because we're going to talk about a few things. Because it's all connected. J.D. Vance's new memoir about his supposed conversion to Catholicism. So here's Brian. Knowing everything that he has on the line, he still had to put these giant boobies on. And what's the thing with... And put his face in the picture, too. So there is no doubt that it's him. So it goes to show you that he has no control over his... over this, that this is something that is driving him. And as far as Kristi Noem asking for thoughts and prayers at this time, she could go pound sand. These people are horrible. And yes, Julie on the chat says, I can feel bad for the confused child he was, but he's a grown man now, enjoying the benefits of his wealth and his wife's position, knowing full well his party was vilifying the trans community. Exactly. Hold on a second. Is my thingy not working? Okay, because I could see the chat. I'm supposed to be looking at... Hold on a second. It's not the chat. I don't want to see the chat. I want to see the... Yeah, that. One sec, guys. Technical difficulties. So yeah, and exactly, there has to be something psychologically going on in him, and he's a grown man, and this is what we deal with Republicans. They need to get the help, and I've said it for years. If only they would get the help that they desperately need, and we all see it. They're screaming for it, really. So what he has, this kink or whatever it is, it's called bimbofication, and it's a giant breast cross-dressing fetish. Fetishes, according to psychiatrists and analysts, they say that it stems from something in the childhood, where this fetish gets linked with, your sexual, I guess, awakening or identity. But it does speak that, to me, it seems that he's got a gender dysphoria and this over amplification, this caricature of femininity is what he's, I guess, into. It's a sickness, really. I don't know. It speaks to somewhere along the line, the wires got crossed, and this turned into a dirty secret, I guess, that he gets off on. But this alter ego where he dons these fake giant breasts and pink hot pants, and I guess it's all about curves. He puts padding in his underwear, make his ass big. And he paid at least $25,000 to chat with women in the bimbofication scene. And then he told them he loves huge, ridiculous boobs. When I was thinking about all of this, it's the same, it's sort of like the same thing his wife is doing with her dress up. She plays dress up too. They all are, on some level, playing dress up. None of them are fit for their roles in in the government of a modern nation. They shouldn't be anywhere near the halls of power. So what do? They put on the costume of someone who knows what they're doing. Well, Kristi Noem looks absolutely ridiculous, of course. So when they try to put, it's all an exaggeration. Might as well be the same thing that Brian is doing, putting on an over exaggeration of what a female is, and they're like Kash Patel, all of them, Traitor Trump, saying, I can act presidential as he walks around the stage, right? Remember that? We played the clip of him during the campaign saying, anybody can be presidential, and then he walks around the stage. Like, it's just an act. Because for these people, it is an act. But so I wonder, is this repressed gender dysphoria? I don't know. I would say in my Psych 201 analysis that it seems like, he's straight identifying and using this feminine drag and these giant prosthetic breasts is another, it's like they're another Republican life that is compartmentalized, because this is what they do. They go out there and make the society hostile to people who are trans, right? To people who they have gender dysphoria, and they're dealing with it. They're getting help for it. They're living their authentic lives. That should be embraced and encouraged and understood in the very least. And if you can't do any of those, you should leave people the F alone. But instead, Republicans make a hostile environment for people who, and it's not dress up for trans people either. It's not a fetish. This is who they are. It's their lives. But behind closed doors, people like Brian, people like Kristi Noem go out there and they create a hostile environment for the LGBTQ community. And then they go behind closed doors and get their freak on. They all want to act gay, be gay, behind closed doors. We have dealt with this many times. There was I can't remember the guy's name. Maybe somebody on the chat will remind me, because he's not in the public eye anymore. He was infamous, especially during the first maladministration. He was a young guy who would go around to Target stores during Gay Pride Month and knock down their displays, and he would put it online. What was that guy's name? And we would play his videos, and he would say, it's not gay pride, it's gay shame, and he would make these really over-the-top videos where going into different stores and really being a dick, harassing the staff, knocking down rainbows, right? Because how sick you got to be to hate rainbows, right? But it ended up, he got outed. He was on Grindr. And before that even happened, we was like, how much do you want to bet that this kid is gay? And if everyone on Earth who was gay suddenly turned purple, he would look like a Teletubby. There's no doubt. And, of course, someone who hooked up with him on Grindr and realized who he was outed him. Good. Because it's the hypocrisy. The hypocrisy and the hate, making this world unsafe for people like him, just because he was lacking in the courage to live an authentic life. Oh, and I'm seeing on the chat that Pam Bondi is fired. Of course, Pam Bondi is fired. He fires women, but I mean, shame on her. It goes to show us yet again there's no loyalty in Traitor Trump's maladministration. Loyalty is a one-way street. She can join Kristi Noem, and we can go back and listen to her screaming about the Dow, all of the the ways she disgraced herself and the country she pretended to represent. The Dow, the Dow. Well, and how she railed about the Democrats. You have Trump derangement syndrome. When, listen, guys, Trump derangement syndrome is a patriotic imperative. Trump derangement syndrome, and as oh yeah, was it Eric Schmidt on the guys on the chat? Yeah. Let me look it up. Somebody can look it up. He was a young. No. Let's not get distracted. So yeah. Sorry guys, I am getting distracted, so I'm telling myself, let's not get distracted. So, yeah, let's get back to whatever. I mean, we could talk about Pam Bondi tomorrow or later. Tomorrow, actually, we're going to have Andrea Brower on the show on Tarabuster Fridays. Andrea Brower from the Hal Spark Show is coming on. So we'll talk about this, and we'll talk about Pam Bondi. We want to talk about Republicans dealing with, we know that they're going to try to steal the election. Trader Trump is going to slow down the mail. He's going to do everything he can to steal the election. And if he loses, when he loses, he will not leave. And we're talking about it in the midterms. He's going to make it as hard as possible, of course. But by the time the presidential election rolls around, he's going to he will not leave if and when he loses. When, we should say. Because, I don't know, shame on everybody who voted for him this time, who saw the death, the destruction, and everything else. But let's get back to Brian for a second. This is the family values, I guess, political club. And they use family values, of course, as a cudgel. What's family values? Of course, everybody is for family values. What the hell is family values? What they mean is hating gays. Everything is an opportunity to divide the American people along every difference, every distinction without a difference. That's what they do. So they use their Christianity. Now, we know that Kristi Noem she likes to say she's in a godly marriage, right? Her and her husband, they're in a godly marriage. This is another example of how they they set people up into hierarchies. Some, I guess all are created equal. Some are more equal than others. When they say they're in a godly marriage, it means that your marriage is not a godly marriage, or a gay marriage is not a godly marriage. That's just not a real marriage, but their marriage is real because they do their kink or they do their hypocrisies behind closed doors, but that's not true. We could see their hypocrisies. We know that all you have to do is scratch the surface of one of these holy rollers, and you will find a bimbofication fetish or something of that sort. Some kind of anti-gay, I mean, I'm not saying that's it is, to me, looking at what he's doing, it is, you can argue misogynist, because it is like a caricature of femininity, but it speaks to his disturbing, mental health. It's not that it's, and the disturbing part is not that it's a consenting adult that has a weird boob fetish. It's that the political world that he's attached to works overtime to criminalize and smear queer and trans people for merely existing while demanding sympathy, right? Sympathy and privacy for his own non-normative sexuality. That's his, right? It's rules for thee. Let's give them the privacy. Let's give them the decency of understanding and compassion. But they won't ever extend that to anyone else, especially trans people. And there's a long documented pattern of Republicans or hard right figures crusading against LGBTQ rights while secretly engaging in these behaviors that they demonize. And being a gay person is gay. You could be gay. You could act straight and still be gay, of course. This is what they don't understand. Being gay is not a behavior. It's an orientation. It's an identity. Just because you marry Kristi Noem doesn't mean you're not gay or you're not trans. But because they have created an environment of hostility and they lack the courage to live an authentic life, who knows? You know, I can't say because I'm not in his head, but it certainly screams there's a lot going on there. And it's why we can throw a rock in the Republican National Convention and hit some closeted gay, some self-loathing closet case who is out there railing against people who don't have the same hang-ups they do because they live authentic lives, or at least they're trying to, in the hostile environment Republicans foment. And it's like, you know, this is why I say if only they would get the help they need. Leave people the fuck alone. Isn't that what freedom is all about? No, not to them. To them, freedom is the freedom to be horrible to people, to be horrible to people who who are trying to live this blip of time as their authentic self, right? And Kristi Noem is horrible. She has a long public record of pushing anti-trans and anti-LGBTQ policies, labeling herself, all while labeling herself as being in a godly or God-fearing marriage, where you put on your costumes. I wonder if he puts on his boobs and she puts on her cowboy hat. Hey, that's fine. Nobody cares. It's the hypocrisy. It's the hate we're pointing out. While she was South Dakota's governor, she signed a ban on gender-affirming care for all trans youth. She prohibited, this ban prohibited puberty blockers, hormone therapy, surgeries, and threatening doctors with lawsuits and loss of their license if they didn't comply. Oh, but it's okay to go behind closed doors and put on giant boobs, which isn't, of course, that's not what trans people are. It's not a costume to trans people. In fact, trans people, if they're not living as their authentic self, that's the costume. The costume that Republicans wear every single day in front of the world. Look at me, we're all in this godly marriage. We're in a special kind of marriage, not unlike your marriage, unlike your life. Leave people alone, Republican. This is why I can't stand. I will never forgive anyone for voting for this maladministration. It's not just Trump, it's the whole Republican Party. This is who they are. And if you vote for this, I mean, they are. It's an act. Like patriotism is an act to them. That's an act. Christianity is an act to them. It's all performance. Right? And what else? She signed a statewide ban on trans girls and women in school sports, of course, making South Dakota the first state to enact such a ban. That's Kristi Noem. Now she wants your thoughts and prayers because her husband likes to put on big boobs. Was she? I would make a bet she knew that already. Where do you put those boobs in the house? And your hot pink pants and your ass padding. She's probably into it. Who cares? Kristi Noem puts on her ICE uniform or her army uniform. She's got a whole closet to choose from, a whole closet of costumes, and then they put their costume on and they go in front of the world, like when she was in front of the Congress and saying how appalled and outraged she was that they were bringing up her affair with Corey Lewandowski. And then they, because this is, they put their costume on. Here we are. We're a godly couple, a godly Republican couple. Nothing to see here. While they beat and bash and smash other people who actually need understanding and compassion. I don't have any for Kristi Noem and Brian Noem. I'm sorry. They get what they deserve. They get what they give. That's one of the spiritual laws of the universe? You get what you give? Well, Kristi, you get what you give. And you haven't given anything but hate and division and misunderstanding and targeting people, less than 1% of the population. She could have used her position in the governorship, in the halls of power, to spread understanding. Instead, she chose to spread hate. Right? She could have said, hey, listen, I know you're all triggered by trans people for whatever reason. Well, I can tell you right now, because of your own hang-ups and well, let me tell you, as governor of California, I know a little thing, not California, of South Dakota. I know some things about some things, and one of those things is that gender is a construct. My constituents. So don't get upset if somebody is living their authentic life. If you don't like that, look away. You don't have to like it. It's not, their lives don't depend on whether you like it or not, or whatever. And your sky spook, I don't know about you, but my sky spook says that we should love our neighbor and have compassion for our neighbor. And because your gender identity is not tied to your pee-pee, it makes perfect sense that some people in gestation, your pee-pee might not match your brain, your gender identity, because your gender identity comes from your brain, not your pee-pee. And in that gestation process, as we're all female, as the blueprint of every human being is a female to start, and then all those chemical reactions happening, and maybe things get crossed in the process. So if some of us, less than 1% of us, might not have our pee-pees matching our brain. So we thankfully have progressed long enough in science and morality and spirituality and humanity to be able to help people so they can live their authentic life. In this blip of time we're all sharing together, we have a duty to do that, to show compassion and humanity, just like we would to anybody who needs any other kind of medical intervention to live a full, actualized self, like Tara Devlin from Tarabuster, who needs glasses to see. Thank God we have medical intervention for her broken-ass eyes. Right? And I mean, these are the people that they go get gender-affirming care every time they go to an esthetician, right? They go and get their fucking face lifted and their lips puffed out and their boobs done. That's all gender-affirming care. I mean, no, I can't tell. All these MAGA morons with the Mar-a-Lago faces, all that gender-affirming care, that shit needs to be legislated. Because it gets to a point where clearly there's some mental health crisis going on. Reference Laura Loomer, who had a perfectly nice face at one time. Not that she never had a nice personality or nice anything, disposition, but her face was acceptable, and she turned it into damn Jigsaw. Somewhere along the line, you thought maybe somebody could have had some intervention, maybe some legislation to stop her from mutilating herself. That's the gender-affirming care we need legislation for. Not trans people, not trans youth whose parents are trying to save their lives and these fuckers come in and stick their filthy fascist Republican noses into a private medical decision, into a family's business that they have no business. And they're basically saying, I don't care. I want your kid to have suicide ideation. I want them not to not want to live. Because that's politically advantageous to my career as a good Christian family values Republican in a godly marriage. This is the sickness that our country is under from these freaks that need help. They should simply get the help they need. Go get help. But they don't. Instead, they inflict their manias on us, on the world, on society. Right? Julie on the chat says, imagine having to live with Mar-a-Lago face long after MAGA is dead. Woof. Well, what about that girl? Is that that one that got the Trump tattoo on her forehead? I think she's running a GoFundMe campaign to get it removed. Suckers are born every minute. Trumpanzees are living proof. Okay, so next story. We should just keep these boobies up. But it's all connected. There's a couple of things I want to talk about because we only have an hour on Tarabuster Tuesdays and Thursdays. J.D. Vance, speaking of fake performative Christianity, he has a book coming out supposedly about his conversion to Catholicism. And pay no attention to the fact that he's been rebuked by now not one, but two popes. Right? He says he's Catholic. And that's, I don't know, because let's get real. Not only has he been rebuked by two popes, the only reason he's Catholic, it's another performance. And he chose Catholicism not because he believes in Catholicism. I mean, in my opinion, it's because of Peter Thiel, his puppet master, one of the key figures in Vance's life. That, unfortunately, because the corporate media sucks, and I thank you for listening to this show and others like it, because this is the liberal media, and we can't do it without you. They will never connect the dots between Peter Thiel and J.D. Vance. Who J.D. Vance, if it were Obama or Biden or any other Democrat had a relationship with, I don't know, instead of a fascist, they had a relationship with a socialist, right? Well, we would never hear the end of it on the corporate media, right? J.D. Vance said one of the most pivotal meetings or moments in his life was when, he calls it the most significant moment of his time at Yale, was meeting Peter Thiel and becoming his, I would say, yeah, because after that, Peter Thiel funded his entire life, made him the head of a fund, of a trust, not a trust fund, what do they call that? I can't think of the word, these rich fuckers have. And he then formed and funded his entire political career. His meteoric rise from senator to vice president in a matter of years. He's only been in the political world for 5 years, maybe less, or a little bit more. Well, Peter Thiel is definitely the reason that Vance's faith journey supposedly landed on Catholicism. It's not the Pope, because the Pope, the two popes now, have already managed the rare feat. Vance has managed the rare feat of getting smacked down by two actual popes for his bastardized Catholic rhetoric. He went on Fox News, J.D. Vance, and tried to dress up mass deportations in the language of what he was saying is ordo, see, they sound very fancy when they speak Latin, ordo amoris, the order of love. Okay? So this is so Nazi. It is right out of the fascist playbook where everything is about love. It's Gott mit uns. God is with us. That's what the Nazis had on their belt buckles. They all thought it's all about love. You know, you kill Jews because you love your country. And then you have to kill the children too because, you know, they can't grow up without parents. And you love their country because they're going to grow up too and they're going to threaten the great fatherland. And it's all about ordos amoris. So he wrapped these deportations, family separations, the dragnet policies around some kind of Christian duty, because he said it was ordo ortis, the order of love. You know, because you love America. That's the justification. You love America more than immigrants, and that means you have to beat down on immigrants, even though the country is a nation of immigrants. And it didn't take long. Of course, Pope Francis responded to this bullshit. He didn't name J.D. Vance, but everybody knew what he was talking about. He tore this argument to shreds from the balcony of the Vatican, insisting that and this is what the Pope said, laws and policies must be judged by the dignity and fundamental rights of every person, not just in regard to legal status or papers, please. And he put a fine point on it, saying, especially the poorest and the most marginalized, which in this effed up country are undocumented immigrants, of course, and trans people, and everybody that Republicans target, because they're bullies and cowards and divisive scum who hate this country and want us at each other's throats until they can finally get rid of pesky democracy once and for all. Pope Francis, and then this is the prior pope, right? So now we have Pope Leo. He's been, J.D. Vance has been rebuked by the leader of his so-called faith now twice, two. You know, the Pope is supposed to be infallible. He's supposed to be divinely appointed. You would think if you claim to be a Catholic, so much so, your conversion is so vital to your core that you wrote a book about it. You want to share it with the world, but you don't, doesn't matter, even though on the cover of the book, it's a Methodist church, not a Catholic church, but I'll get to that in a second. And, you know, you would think you're sharing your Catholicness with the world, you would listen to the leader of your faith that is, according to your faith, infallible and divinely appointed. Not Traitor Trump, not Mike Johnson, not Peter Thiel, but the Pope is saying, you're wrong, J.D. Vance. I'm the leader of your faith that you supposedly is such an impact on you. You wrote a book that you want to share it with people. Well, I'm here to tell you you're wrong and you need to stop. But he doesn't. Because the leader of his faith isn't the Pope, this Pope or the last Pope or any Pope. It's Peter Thiel. It's all performance. That's why he could put a picture of a Methodist church on the cover of the book. You know, it's not, whoopee doopy. It's, you're nitpicking and what does it matter? It's a church. The point is that it speaks to who they are. it speaks to the performance of it all. It's not sincerity. And it speaks to the fact that they don't even bother to check. Oh, this is going on the cover of my book. Well, that's a nice looking church. Don't even bother to check if it's a Catholic church, because it doesn't matter if it's a Catholic church. That's incidental. The whole thing is an act. It's a performance. As long as you think it's a Catholic church and you think that he's speaking from a Catholic perspective, or he really does have a sincere conversion to Catholicism, even though the two leaders of his church, infallible and appointed by God, say he's wrong, but he won't stop. It's incredible. And it also goes to the fact that this is who they are. That's why their policy papers and their executive orders and that they release are all filled with misspellings, and because they are lazy too. They don't care. They're lazy. It's an act. It's all a con. Doesn't matter what they do. They want you to believe. And it's because it's not sincere. If it were sincere, there would be, and they would sincerely, be like, oh, my Pope told me I'm wrong, so I'm wrong. I guess. And this is how he can justify being Peter Thiel's puppet, I guess, and go around hating the most marginalized and the poor, making their lives more miserable. That's how you would think. You would judge your time in office, is that you made life better for the people that you represent. But in J.D. Vance's and the whole Republican Party's circumstance, that's the people they pretend to represent. This administration is running an ambitious and cruel mass deportation program. That's what the Pope said. With immigrants detained in Guantanamo Bay and El Salvador and, horrible places that they think that's tough, and just because somebody's undocumented, they need to go to a gulag. That doesn't sound like the teachings of Jesus. It sounds like Peter Thiel. Because one of the things that Peter Thiel, because he says that that's the most significant, the most significant time in his time at Yale was meeting Peter Thiel. Well, Peter Thiel goes around, he's a fucking kook, okay? And he goes around giving speeches about demons. Okay, Peter Thiel is a very sick man, and one of the things that J.D. Vance said, of course, he said it was his most significant meeting or whatever, and Peter Thiel steered him, J.D. Vance, toward, and when you learn about this, it all kind of makes sense, okay, because he steered him towards this person called the name of Rene Girard. And Rene Girard is an academic, supposedly. He's not alive anymore. He died in 2010 or something. 2015. And he's one of these people who influenced Peter Thiel, like Curtis Yarvin, fascist, like, who's that? The Nazi, Carl Schmitt. So, but Rene Girard had pioneered something called scapegoat theory that is, and when you think about everything that this maladministration is about, and of course, J.D. Vance, the policies that they support. So scapegoat theory is, it says that prejudice, hostility, violence is a result of individuals or groups misdirecting frustration toward innocent, marginalized targets rather than the true cause of their problem. So so that's the theory, and of course, yeah, maybe, but this is what J.D. Vance is doing. He and this entire maladministration are directing individuals and groups. This is the whole Republican plot. Misdirecting frustration towards innocent, marginalized targets rather than the true cause of their problems. That's the Republican plan in a nutshell. Or stop me when I'm wrong here. Prejudice. Instead of using that, instead of utilizing that as a tool, as a cudgel, J.D. Vance, as somebody who understands this and is pretending to be Catholic, or at least if he was Catholic or really Christian and pretending, and really believing what the Pope said, then his entire political life would try to rectify the hate that the Republicans are sowing throughout this country, especially against marginalized groups. But this is J.D. Vance. He's one of the people that advanced that whole, they're eating the cats, they're eating the dogs. He's spread hate against every marginalized group that he can, never adding understanding, never adding compassion or community, right? Never encouraging the people who vote Republican to, put down their hatred, their bigotries, evolve. We're in this together, e pluribus unum and all that. But yet, the Pope explicitly condemned deporting people. He said deporting people, especially those who are fleeing extreme poverty, insecurity, exploitation, persecution, or serious deterioration of the environment. And I'm just quoting from what the Pope said about J.D. Vance, without naming him. He says it damaged the dignity of families and leaves human beings in a state of particular vulnerability and defenselessness. But that's how Republicans like it. They want us all in that state of vulnerability and defenselessness because it makes us more susceptible to the scapegoats, to the division, to the hate, to the Republican project of destroying pesky democracy once and for all. So give me a break here. And in the last 10 minutes of the show here, one of the last things I wanted, maybe we could do this on the tomorrow show too, because I wanted to go through the speech that Trader Trump gave last night to the nation, another rambling lies, litany of lies. And but before that, he attended and let me back up a little, because the litany of lies, it's not unexpected, of course, but I watched the speech, even though it gave me a knot in my stomach and made me want to puke. But none of the media I watched corrected the record at all, because he lied throughout that speech, and he has the bully pulpit to lie. So you would think the corporate media, any kind of media, that's why we have a fourth estate. They're there to hold the elected officials to account. They're supposedly, right? Stupid thing, isn't it? And so he lied, of course, throughout. And of course, people will believe the lies then, because when they're not challenged, here he said that Obama gave Iran $1.7 billion in cash to buy their respect and loyalty. It's bullshit. The $1.7 billion was a legal settlement, decades-old claim over the money Iran had paid in the 80s, in the 1970s for arms that were never delivered. And this was resolved through something called the Iran-U.S. Claims Tribunal. This was not a goodwill gift for respect and loyalty. It was given because they went to court over it, and it was a settlement. It was Iran's money that was being held illegally, and that's what this tribunal deduced and ordered the United States to give the money back. And because at the time, I guess we were in a lawless maladministration of baboons and flying monkeys running all over the globe, making ourselves rich while impoverishing the people they pretend to represent, they complied. And the administration, he said that this was to buy respect and loyalty, and it was given out of banks from Virginia and D.C. Of course, this is all bullshit. Trader Trump puts these little details in there because it helps he's a con man, and that makes people more apt to buy and swallow the bullshit. The money was not literally pulled out as physical cash out of U.S. banks. It's just ridiculous. But not one corporate media outlet corrected the record. And then he said the Iran deal would have led to a colossal arsenal of massive nuclear weapons for Iran. And they would have had them years ago, and there would have been no Middle East and no Israel right now. Well, bullshit. The JCPOA, the Iran nuclear deal, imposed verifiable limits and inspections on Iran's nuclear program. It capped enrichment, centrifuges, stockpiles, and it was working. Okay? The whole world was involved in this, not just the United States, and it was working. Independent arms controls experts and the IAEA repeatedly certified that the Iran deal was working, that Iran was complying. And then Trump withdrew because he's a fucking America-hating baboon. All right, and then saying, oh, the whole, I can't take when they're like, oh, they chant death to America, death to Israel. Who fucking gives a shit, first of all? When was the last time we saw this anyway? U.S.-Israel slogans, these have been used for 47 years. It's bullshit. Of course, it's not true. But it's not literally a continuous policy because somebody says, and when was the last time we even saw any of this happening, right? Not that it matters. Who cares? Death to America. So let's start a war for no fucking reason? It's juvenile. So, and to say then he said the murderous regime also killed 45,000 of their own people who were protesting in Iran. Okay, it's not 45,000, and even in the harsh crackdowns, the estimates are not tens of thousands, of course. It's more in the hundreds to low thousands, but this is who the baboon is, and there's no credible sourcing for what he's saying. It's just, what the fuck, right? What? Why are we putting up with this monster, this unfit monster in the office? And then he says, oh, in many things during my 2 terms in office to stop the quest for nuclear weapons, I did many things. This is his 2nd term, of course, so he exited the JCPOA and claiming his actions stopped Iran's nuclear quest for a nuclear, or stopped the quest for a nuclear weapon. It was the U.S. withdrawal that escalated. their quest for a nuclear weapon. Okay, the other thing in the last couple of minutes in the show to talk about what he said, that we can't afford Medicaid and Medicare anymore, that the federal government should stop doing health care. This is how evil Republicans are. All right? At an Easter luncheon, the baboon says that we just can't afford it anymore, right?
Autism in Minnesota 4 years ago, Biden's first.
Oh, shut your hole. Where is it?
Doesn't include Medicare, Medicaid. That's even bigger. And it's many states, probably Republican states.
Oh, you rambling baboon. That in itself it just ties into everything that we're talking about. Traitor Trump and the Republicans, all their performative Christianity. We can't afford Medicare, we can't afford Medicaid, but we can afford $1 billion a day for an illegal war, an unconstitutional war of distraction from the fact that Traitor Trump is all over the Epstein files, committing crimes against children. That we could afford that, but not to make America decent and healthy and unified. Make the American people suffer. At an Easter luncheon, I don't want to hear anyone talk about how religious, how holy, how pro-life, how Christian Republicans are. Of course, it's them that scream it the most. As the old Native American saying goes, those who scream the most have the least to say. So that's them constantly screaming about how Christian they are, but they never show us how Christian they are because they're not. It's all a performance. They want to take money out of and they want to take money to kill more people. Every time Republicans get in office, the American people needlessly die. The rates of death from despair, needless death, go up. That's not a coincidence. That is a causal relationship. So, and then they wrap it in the veneer of some kind of well thought out political philosophy. He's been saying this for a while. Somebody probably tell them, oh, everything should go back to the states. This is what Republicans want to do because they want to weaken America. They want to destroy America. Keep that in mind. It's all about dragging us back to the system the founders fought a revolution to escape and overthrow, and they want to overthrow the liberal democracy that they created and entrusted to us. So they want everything back to the states, and Trump likes that because it makes him seem like he has some kind of well thought out political philosophy when it's not. Everything back to the states is the only thing I ever hear from this baboon. This is what he did in the first maladministration with the COVID response, his botched COVID response that left America a land of mass graves. Oh, look for your own ventilators and PPE. That's why we were wearing garbage bags and washing out our N95 masks, right? The frontline workers, the essential workers. Because there are things the federal government is supposed to do. They're supposed, because the federal government is bigger, has more money. It's by the nature of its size. Oh, I can't believe that's the music already. And he wants to say, give it back to the states. I'm going to lower the music. Where is it? I got 1 more minute. And because it gives him another excuse to do nothing. He doesn't know how to run a government. He doesn't want to. Because it's like his businesses. He's a con man. It's all a performance. So when there are actual things that have to be done, isn't it easier to just say, do it to the states, give it to the states? Because otherwise I have to do it. right? And I can't fucking do it because I'm a baboon. I'm a con man baboon, and I am looking for a quick, easy buck. And he's got no skills. He's got no intelligence. So give it to the states, right? It's not a well thought out political ideology. He's lazy. There's no philosophy here. It's just, I gotta get back to getting my ass licked by every CEO and playing some golf. You think these scumbags have miss a minute of sleep? These good Christians thinking about all of the seniors or young people or anybody or any American who can't go to a doctor, who can't afford to have a decent middle class life that used to be the American birthright before the filthy fascist Republicans and and the billionaires bought our government. All right, guys, that's the end of the show for today. Thank you for everything. Please become a patron, patreon.com/Tara Devlin. Please subscribe to my Substack. Okie dokie. It's up there in the corner. That helps keep the show going and growing. Maybe I'll make it a little smaller, just so it's not sticking on the side of my head. And yeah, got to get those Substack numbers up, because eventually when those numbers are more bigger and better, then we could, the show will be better, okay? Because we'll have more guests, we'll have more people working on it. You know what I mean? It's all working out like that. We're in this together. And thank you, Jim, for keeping us safe in the chat room. All right, my friends. Thank you, 1960 Demo. Nice to see you. Thank you, Celery. Thank you, Epstein Files and Surrender Monkey and everyone else on the chat. We will win. We're on the right side of history. And Allie, nice to see you. Nice to see you. We're on the right side of decency, dignity, democracy, humanity. Remember, tomorrow, Andrea Brower on the show. Nice to see you, J.K. Stevens. Thanks for being here. We stick together. We win. My name is Tara Devlin. Thank you for hanging out. I will see you tomorrow night. Okay.